Hello, this is Miss Pat from Samuels Public Library. This week in Science Scouts, we're going to be learning about constellations. Okay, constellations are kind of make-believe pictures or connect-the-dot pictures that some people make when they look at the stars. Our story this week is going to be called Henry's Stars by David Elliot. Right, and if you look at his name here, he sees his name and the stars, word stars, connecting the dots, right? Connecting the stars. This is really what he sees. So what pictures do you see in here? If you played Connect the Stars, Henry sat quietly on his step, staring up at the night sky. It was a beautiful, warm evening, and as he looked from star to star, they seemed to form a picture at the darkness. "Oh," he squealed, "what's that?" What pictures do you see? It's a great big starry pig running across the sky. Henry raced over to the wool shed where Maisie, Daisy, and Clementine were getting ready for bed. "Bah! What's all the excitement, Henry?" they bleated. "I found the great pig in the sky," squealed Henry. "Where? Show us," said the sheep. "There are his ears, and there are his legs, and there is his curly tail," he said, pointing to a group of stars. "See?" Maisie, Daisy, and Clementine looked where Henry pointed. "Ah, yes, I see it," said Daisy. "There is a sheep's ear and woolly body. How clever you are, Henry. You have found a great sheep." Just then, Abigail came sauntering over. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Shouldn't you all be in bed?" "Bah, we found the great sheep of the stars," cried Maisie, Daisy, and Clementine triumphantly. "Great pig, actually," said Henry. Abigail looked at the stars. She craned her head and whisked her tail. "Ah, yes, I see it," she mooed excitedly. "There is a cow's horn," said Abigail, waving her hoof at the sky, "and a handsome cow's tail. It's definitely a great star cow, and she looks hungry. She thinks she may just eat those stars over there." Same stars, huh? Just then, Mr. Brown came plodding over the yard. "What's all this?" he whinnied. "Why are you all staring into the sky?" "We found the great star cow," mooed Abigail. "The great sheep of the stars, actually," cried Maisie, Daisy, and Clementine, frowning. Henry just sighed. By now, the chickens had joined in. Oops, sorry about that. "Move over. I'll settle this," said Mr. Brown, getting himself comfortable. They all waited while Mr. Brown looked carefully at the sky. "Ah, yes, I see it," he snorted finally. "It's a great starry horse. I see his head and his mane and his hooves flying. He's galloping like the wind. How nice of you to find him." "You mean the great starry cow," said Abigail indignantly. "Bah, he means the great sheep of the stars," argued the sheep. And by now, the chickens had joined in. "Look," they squawked, pointing their wings. "Heavenly hens flying all over the place." "Excuse me," said Henry sternly. "There are no great sheep of the stars, or great star cows, or great starry horses, or heavenly hens. There is just my great pig, and that's that." But now when he looked up at where the great pig once was, all he saw was a sheep's ear next to a cow's horn on a galloping horse's body. What happened to his great pig, he wondered. Henry sighed, his mind all aclutter. He decided to go back home. He sat forlornly on his step and stared up at the sky. He was beginning to think that his friends might be right. Maybe there was no great pig after all. But as he sat there wondering, slowly the squabbles of the farmyard dwindled away into the night, and Henry found himself alone again with his stars. "Oh," he squealed, "I see it! I see it!" And there, running in starlight across the night once more, was Henry's great pig. Henry couldn't wait to show the others. But you know, when he shows them, because he can't play connect the stars in the sky, they're going to see what they want to see again, right? And that's the problem with looking up at the stars. We all see the same stars, but we don't see the same pictures. Okay, so constellations are just pictures in the stars formed if you could connect the dots. Right? Grouping them into pictures helps us identify certain stars. If you can find the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, right? The top part of the corner for the Big Dipper is going to point to the tail or the handle, the end of the handle for the Little Dipper, and that's going to be our North Star, right? And that's usually very important. When people want to try and find north, they're going to look for the North Star. Okay, during the Civil War, people used the North Star to guide them north, right? People coming over from Europe on the big boats, on the ships, they would look for the stars because they didn't have all these fancy electronic equipment like we do right now with GPS. So they'd have to follow the stars or the sun. So their problem was when on days like today, when it's really cloudy. Right, so if we know where they are, we can find certain stars. And that's how you're going to find the North Star. You look for the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. Now, people used to use them to figure out the calendar. Farmers knew by looking at the Big Dipper movement, when did they have to plant their crops? When did they have to harvest their crops, okay? So they planted them in March. This is when the Big Dipper looked like this. Okay, in June, it's going like this. In September, when they want to take everything in out of the field before the frost and the snow comes, it's going to look like this. And this is when it's snowing, right? This is going to be December. So it's the Big Dipper, but it was kind of being turned around. The stars aren't moving. All right, our planet is moving. And because the Earth is moving, the direction of the stars at different times of the year is going to change a little bit, but we're always going to be able to see the Big Dipper. So they use this to figure out when to plant their crops, when to take them in. Now, as the Earth goes around the sun, we can see different constellations during the year. All right, so during January, we might see a certain group of stars, and then the planet moves, and we see another group of stars. And then we keep, as the planet revolves, we're seeing different stars in our sky. They call these the zodiac constellations. Now, these are not exactly based on the months like our calendars are, okay, but there are 12 constellations in the zodiac family. It is not one for each month. It usually starts something like mid-January to mid-February, and that would be Capricorn, right? And then mid-February to mid-March would be Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus. So depending on when you are. Now, I know my birthday is in August, and I'm going to be a Leo. Okay, so there are 12 of them. The ancient Greek people thought that they were God-favored heroes and beasts who received a place in the stars, right? So there might have been Pisces is a fish. There was a story about a giant fish, and because of his actions, he got put in the stars. Aries was one of the Greek gods. Okay, Taurus was a bull. Gemini meant twins. Leo was a lion. Okay, Scorpius was a scorpion. I honestly don't know what the other ones are, or should have been. Other civilizations though thought that the stars were pictures of the gods or heroes, and they were put there to remind them of lessons learned. Okay, so this one was Ursa Major, was a big bear. Ursa Minor, you can't kind of see it here, was the little bear. It's also the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper are made up of this part. Okay, so the Big Dipper is part of Ursa Major. And right here, you can see the little square cup and the handle for Ursa Minor, and that's the Little Dipper. Remember the tail of the Ursa Minor one, tail of the Little Dipper is going to be the North Star. All right, Cassiopeia, Cepheus, there's a dragon called Draco, right? Orion, and Taurus. Taurus was one of our zodiacs. Remember I said it was a bull. Orion was a hunter. Okay, he fought different beasts depending on who's telling the story. So depending on whether or not it was the Greeks or if it was the Romans, he was fighting different animals. And here it almost looks like he's fighting Taurus, right? It looks like he's fighting the bull. So they played connect the dots. Now you don't see these other gray lines when you look up in the stars. You don't even see these blue connect the dots. So sometimes it's really hard. It's kind of like Henry. Henry saw those stars and he saw a pig. But all he did was say, look at those stars right there. And everybody else saw something different. So we are going to make our own constellations, right? And hopefully we're going to be able to project them. I'm not sure if this room is dark enough, but I am going to give you guys little constellations like this that you're going to be able to cut out. I'm going to give you a cup, and I'm going to give you a pin to poke the holes in. Okay, so when you guys come in, you'll get a cup. The bottom is kind of cut out. Right. You can cut out the rest. I didn't want it all the way cut out because when I cut out my constellations, which again, I will give you guys a copy of, and you have a choice, 16 constellations, okay, and the names are here. Now I wrote the name on the back of mine when I cut it out. Okay, I wrote Hercules on the back of this. Now I put Hercules up on the top part and I put it into my cup. Let me show you what else you're going to get there. You're also going to get a piece of black paper. Now you can tape that around your cup. The cups though are kind of a weird shape. So if you can't really tape it the whole way, you might want to just make a really the only reason we want to make it dark is so that when you use your flashlight, okay, when you use your flashlight, we don't want the light going out the sides, okay? Okay, I don't want the light going out the sides. I want it going out that side. So we really want this part dark. Now, if you don't want to use a cup and you have a toilet paper roll at home, you can use that. You don't even have to use the black paper. The advantage of this, though, is that I can stick this in here after I take my pin and I poke the holes. Okay? So I'm going to poke the holes right through every single one. Now be careful. Okay? You might want to do this on a cardboard box or on a rug. Don't do it on your couch, please. We don't want any holes in the couches. You could do it outside. I don't recommend doing it on wooden tables because I don't want you to leave holes in the tables. Okay, but if you do it again on a cardboard box, it'll poke through. It's kind of hard to do it sticking it up in the air. But once all of them are poked through and your cup is all dark, you can stick it in there. Right? And it kind of shows out the side. Now notice Hercules isn't on this side, it's on the other side. Okay? It says Hercules it says Hercules on that side, which isn't the side I want you to do. So this one. Now, if you take it over by the light on the window and you look outside, you could go like this, okay? And you'll see this constellations. Again, they look like this. You can take a flashlight, and they're not going to give you the flashlight though, so you're going to have your own. And then I'm going to see if I can make it a little bit darker in here. Okay. Okay, it's a little bit darker, but it's still not much, so it may or may not work right now. You can see my flashlight is on, right? And I can make the light there, but it's still, you know, see how it's not really showing up too well unless I get really close. So it may not work here. I know when I tried this at home, I had to go into the bathroom because there's no windows or anything in there. So you could go this way, put it inside your cup, right? And depending on which way, you might be able to see, oh, you're just going to see the light that way. So let's see if I put them back here. And I got to get really close to be able to see it, so it's not going to show up on here. The advantage of the hole in the bottom of the cup is that I can knock my circle out, and I can put in another circle if I want. Now, if you don't want to put it in that way, you could go like this. And again, I think because of the light and the darkness, it's not going to show up on here. Whoops, sorry about that. Nope, it'll show up better this way without the light in front of it, right? So that you can see the actual constellation. Again, because you cut out the circles and the names are underneath them, you're going to want to write the names on the back so that you know which ones are which. Okay, we don't have all 12 of the zodiac constellations there, but we do have some of the major ones that go with stories. And feel free to come into the library, look them up. Look up the stories that go with each one, right? And on a nice clear day next time, or I guess night, nice clear night the next time, go on outside. See if you guys can find the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, and some of these other stars, all right? Enjoy. See you guys next week. And don't forget, June 7th, come on into the library and sign up for the summer reading program. All right, see you then.